Hey guys, I'm doing a balance or life balance part 2, just on reflection, feeling like actually I left something out from the last video, and I'm going to make it just a shorter, quicker one, just to add. I think in the last video I kind of talked a lot about the need for balance in your life, what it gives you, and what are the symptoms of how life can be out of balance, or what that might look like. But maybe just for this edition, just thinking about it in the general sense, in terms of maybe some of the key pillars or key areas in your life, and that usually some people have more, but that usually roughly fits into the following categories of your work, your family, your friends, your romantic relationships, and your hobbies, right? Roughly around 5 areas. There's probably some additions, but it generally fits into there. Yeah, just I think pressing on the importance of having balance between them. And I don't mean, if we would say 50-50, like 20-20, like they're equal, they're given equal weight. Of course they're not. Some are going to have way more weight on it than the others, right? But ultimately, that you don't want to feel that one of those, for example, is completely neglected, or one of them is completely dominant on the others. For example, if work is like the majority of your life, and it means that your hobbies are suffering, your time with your friends and family are suffering, your romantic relationships are not as close and are suffering, then there is a classic example, obviously, of imbalance. And that has negative consequences. You have negative consequences from work, and you have negative consequences from the neglect of those other important parts of your life. So yeah, I think it's just being really conscious about those areas of your life in order to avoid extremes, to avoid, because with extremes always comes, on both ends of the spectrum, comes consequences. Sometimes stuff that we're not aware of, sometimes stuff that we think we won't have to pay, or we won't have to pay back until later in life. Let's take an example like with work. If you invested a lot of time into work, and I probably mentioned in this last video, you think in my 20s I'll focus on my work, and then in my 30s I'll focus on my friends and family a bit more. Well, then what happens if one of your friends or family members pass away in your 20s, and you thought, I was going to dedicate time to them in my 30s, but that's not the way life works, and you can't just bank on that being the case the way that you will try and structure it so things will happen when you want it to. It just doesn't work like that. And there's another classic cliche of, like a friend who you're close with suddenly develops a romantic relationship, and then their entire life, or majority of their life, is focused on that romantic relationship, and then friendships get neglected. And again, the archetype of that friend who goes away gets absorbed into that relationship completely. It ends, it comes back to you and it goes, guys, I'm so sorry I neglected you all. I realised the value of friends, now I'm back. And they learn their lesson. And, that's sometimes a journey that people have to take, but it's also sad, and one, if you can avoid, that will be favourable, because then you'll have stronger friendships as a result, and potentially minimise the risk of losing really good friendships, right? Same with family as well. Like, I think when it's always good to spend a lot of time with family, and a lot of us don't spend enough time with family. Maybe I'm guilty of not spending enough time with my family, and that's a consequence. Then I lose the closeness with them, or the understanding with them. So there's maybe a bit of an imbalance in my life, which I think I recognise and I'm trying to address, and certainly this year I've felt better at doing, and I hope my family feel that's the case. Or we take the other extreme, where you spend so much time with your family, especially when you're younger, and then you lose the ability to socialise, with people who are not your family, because you're so used to being with your family. And yes, family and parents are a massive factor in terms of how you grow up and how you mature, but also the friends that you have when you're younger are also really big factor. You spend a lot of time with them at school. And in terms of who will be really influential in your psychology when it comes to teenage years or late teenage years, friends play a big part in that. It's kind of more telling that you can, if you see a person's friendship group when they're like 18 or something, or beyond those ages, if you see what their friendship group is like, you kind of can tell or get a sense of the character of who they are, probably more so than the family, because sometimes, like with family, like your parent could be one way, and you can kind of be quite polar opposite to them, or quite different, or your sister might be one way and you might be very different. But with friends, it gives a good approximation of what you're like as a person. So I think it's just being conscious about those areas in your life and maybe contemplate like what area has too much attention, and maybe what area has a bit neglect and you need balance of it. I mean, for me personally, like I think I pay a lot of attention to my friends, so in that area it doesn't need more, maybe might even need a little less. Same with my romantic partners. My work used to be, but I've brought that down because I really want to have that work-life balance, and I want to avoid the scenario where I get to my 40s and my work has consumed me, and I think that's a lot of people these ages. And then you have to ask yourself why as well, which we'll get to. My family, that's probably an area that I said I need to spend more time on. Hobbies, I'm good at. I think I can spend a bit more time on the hobbies. Also, just because with some of those hobbies, I want to achieve certain things, like get better at salsa or learn Spanish. So I could dedicate a bit more time to that, and maybe within hobbies itself, prioritize more learning Spanish than, say, TV. But I guess thinking about also why you're prioritizing certain things more than others. For example, with work, a lot of people prioritize work, psychologically speaking as well, is that is what's ingrained with them when they were younger, the need for achievement, for performance, to strive for security. But also, psychologically speaking, a lot of psychologists have talked about why a lot of people marry to work so much is because of maybe an absence of love when they were younger or in their life now, and the sense of achievement and progression in a weird way gives them that affirmation that they haven't had in their life, past and present. And that takes a bit of digging, why you might not be as close to family. And I don't want to speak to my family, that they know, and that's being addressed and has gotten better. Or why you might spend less time with friends. Maybe you've just, when you're younger, weren't able to socialise to that degree and always found friendships awkward or frustrating, or your needs not being met, and not having maybe a healthy view on friends. Hobbies as well, maybe you just don't feel very motivated for that. Same with work. Not really having a sense of aspiration. There's always depth to why these are the case, and I think it first starts with those areas, thinking, what area of my life am I maybe neglecting, or what area of my life am I spending too much time on? How can I balance things out? And if I want to balance things out, why am I doing X? Why am I spending more time on this? Or why am I spending less time with this? And from there, hopefully you'll receive more balance in your life. And when you have more balance, as I talked to in the first video about the purpose behind seeking balance and the benefits, you will have a happier life. You will have a more fulfilling life. You will have a life that you'll actually want more, and you'll have a more resilient life to the ups and the downs. You'll be able to seize the great moments and really appreciate it, and also be resilient to some of the toughest times in life. And that just makes life way more vibrant. and worth living and worth sharing. So I hope you find that helpful. Just to add more on balance, and for Sam, future Sam, it's the reflection on what I believe when it comes to balance in life, and also what it's given me based off where I used to be, where my life was very out of balance when I was younger and didn't really prioritise things in the right way. That's it. Thank you guys, and I hope you have a beautiful ride.